All right, so now let's look at the other characteristic or characteristics, and that is looking at when a function is increasing or decreasing. Okay, so what we have to remember, we're going to be reading graphs from left to right. So from left to right, if my function's increasing, that means that I'm going to have a positive slope. So it goes up from left to right. Okay. If I'm reading to left to right and my function is going down, okay, that means I have a negative slope. And then last, if it's kind of like flatlining, that's constant, and it means I'm going to have a slope of 0. Okay, and we are going to identify these intervals of increase and decrease based around my turning points. So let's go try our first example. Okay, so example 3, we're going to pretend that we are riding a roller coaster. So I'm going to ride from left to right. So I'm going to go up the roller coaster, and then we're going down the roller coaster. Then I'm going back up the roller coaster, and then we're getting off to the flat line. The next thing I want you to do is I actually want you to draw lines through your turning points, because if you notice, this is where the change in direction is happening. Okay. And then lastly, we are going to put the turning x value, okay, on top of our line. So 1, 2, 3. So this is -3, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So intervals of increase, which is really confusing. I'm actually reading along the x-axis. Okay, so if I'm looking on this left side over here, this is where my first part of my function is increasing. And coming from the left, we're actually coming from the negative x values. So this is going to be from -infinity, and then it stops increasing at -3. So my first interval is going to be -infinity to -3. Okay. Then I also look, I have a second section that is increasing, and that's starting at the 1 on my x-axis, and it's going to stop at the 4. So I'm going to draw this little U shape to say these are both increasing at 1, okay, at -infinity to -3, and 1 to 4. So there's my intervals of increasing. Okay. Decreasing. So I'm looking, here's my first section that's decreasing, and that's starting at the -3 on my x-axis and ending at 1. So I'm going to have this interval from -3 to 1. And that's actually my only decreasing interval. Last, I have constant. Okay, so if I'm looking here, I'm flatlining. I'm starting at 4, and then it's going forever to the right. Okay. And so therefore, I'm headed towards the positive x value. So my constant interval is from 4 to positive infinity. Let's try our next example. Okay, so it's asking me for increase, decreasing, and constant intervals. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go draw arrows going left to right on my function. So I'm going down, and then I'm going up. I have constant, then I'm going back up, then I'm going down, back up, and then another constant. Next, I'm going to draw my vertical lines going through all of my turning points, which is a lot. And then lastly, I'm going to go write the x values of those turning points above the line. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have -5. 1, 2, 3, -3, -1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. All right. So since I'm starting with my decrease interval over here, let's start with that one. I'm coming from the left, so that's my negative x value. So I'm going to be decreasing from all my negative x, so negative infinity, all the way to negative 5. So negative infinity to negative 5. I have another interval of decreasing, and that's starting at the 1 on my x-axis and then ending at 4. So I'm going to do union 1 to 4. All right. Now let's go to increasing. So here's my first interval is increase, and that's starting at negative 5 on my x-axis and ending at negative 3. So negative 5 to negative 3. And then I have a second interval, and that's starting at negative 1, going to positive 1 on my x-axis. So union negative 1 to 1. All right, and then last I have two sections that are constant. So my first one is starting at negative 3 and it's ending at negative 1. Union, my last one is starting at 5 and then it's going forever right, which is towards the positive x value. So that's going to be 5 to positive infinity.